Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Ben Slinger, and with me, as always, is Trevor Scott.
Hello.
And this week, I think we're going to go back to some old classics that we haven't done in a little while. Shall we start with some what three words,
Yes.
Trevor?
So, in case you don't know, there's an amazing system called What Three Words, and it's basically someone's cut up the world into, 5-meter chunks?
Something like that.
Something like that. And basically, each one of those has been given a three-word,
Combination, yeah.
name, and then I've got a simple little script that goes and gets a latitude and longitude and just gives us random spot across the globe.
That's right. And so we use this as our random prompt, as we often do, and we turn these words into game designs. So, Trevor, shall we use your three words to start with?
Yes. Catering radical vector.
Okay. Well, I choose to think of radical as like the style in the 80s.
Yes.
Really nice.
This is so
Something around rollerblades.
radical
roller skates.
catering, as you deliver things, it pops up in very cartoony, sort of comic booky font of radical, cool.
Very.
and
How do you describe those 80s colours?
neon?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that 80s neon sort of style, I suppose. Yeah, okay, I like that.
Fluoro. Because that's what it
maybe
was.
more fluoro.
It's
yes,
all
yes.
fluoro. So think of fluoro pens, and someone's gone buck wild on 3D text.
Yeah, I like that sort of scribbly style of it, actually. That could be cool.
Yeah.
Of it not just being the colours, but actually being that sort of texture to the UI.
Yeah.
So what's your goal? So you're some sort of catering company.
Yeah. And I think they're using state-of-the-art, technology for the 1980s.
For the 80s.
And they're now plotting vectors and, basically as you're going and you're delivering these sort of meals on wheels sort of thing, you're actually drawing out, you're kind of doing logo. You're kind of the turtle, and you're drawing, You're drawing a brand or something like that, and so
is that it? Is that just more of a little Easter egg of where you get the locations for each thing, or do you have to sort of plot that out yourself to ensure that you hit the right points?
I kind of like the idea that they give you the points, and if you find the most optimal route, you kind of fuck up the drawing a bit, and if you follow their route, it draws a lovely curve to it because they wanted you to get on the freeway and make that curve.
So you're thinking this is sort of a driving game then in its core?
Kind of like a top-down driving game.
Okay.
I'm thinking kind of like if you remember Death Rally or any of those sort of top-down, almost Micro Machines-esque driving, but in 3D.
So it's sort of still
Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, okay. So it is
Top down.
a fairly... you've got a bit of perspective, but it's mostly, straight top down of the early Grand Theft Autos. Yeah, okay. That's cool. That gives that's certainly an interesting aesthetic. And then bringing the 80s into it is fun. So what are the challenges you run up against, I guess? Is it around the different types of food and you got time limits? Is it...
Yeah, I think if you've got, poultry, you don't want to let it cool because if it cools down too much, it can actually start getting more bacteria and it can make the user sick. And Meals on Wheels doesn't usually deliver to, very, 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 very healthy and patience and all this sort of stuff.
So you have
Quite
a
often
death toll at the end of your day. You delivered 7 cases of salmonella
and ran over 3 schoolchildren.
Old ladies.
I like the idea of,
can we license some 80s music, perhaps?
Ooh, yes.
Have the sort of the GTA radio station vibe, or...
Yeah, so your best bet would actually be to get all those one-hit wonders, but not the actual one-hit wonders. You just get the bands, and then you get their other sons that people don't know.
Their B-sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it feels like 80s, but no one knows the songs.
Yeah, you don't have to pay because we're on a budget here. We're on a budget here.
Everyone knows Turning Japanese by the Vapors, but does anyone know News at 10, Jimmy Jones, or Prisoners? No, exactly. So they're perfect songs to have because they sound like the 80s or end of 79.
Thank you, Trevorpedia here, pulling obscure songs. News at 10, yeah, that's it. So we grab News at 10 by the Vapors and we sound like the 80s without having to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So do we have any antagonists, though? Do we have, like, roving BMX gangs? Do we have ETs phoning home?
If we do have the roving BMX gangs, which one is it? BMX Bandits or Rad?
I mean, I think BMX Bandits would be my go-to. Yeah. I think personally that's the one I know.
I mean, I don't remember Rad, but I know that was my more favourite movie of those two. I don't remember what happened in it, but I remember that Rad was the one that was always out at the video store.
Right, so it was the popular choice.
Which is weird, because it was the American one versus the Australian one, but...
Yeah, how can you go past Nicole Kidman, right?
Yeah, that was BMX Bandits, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes. Yes, well, exactly. And then you presumably have to avoid all the people gleaming the cube down the road as well. And
well, Flight of the Navigator. Like, you see the spaceship from Flight of the Navigator come flying along the top of you for a little bit.
You can drive it. Yeah, that's an unlockable vehicle.
Yeah. Be careful, though, because you might go forward in time. And still with the same age. Because, yes, that happened in that movie.
Because then you'll end up in the 90s. Then we have to buy a whole lot of other tracks and think of a whole other lot of references. So let's not do that.
Never-ending Story. Falcor the Luck Dragon. That's another.
Falcor is just another unlockable. Yes. Well, I think we'll end our trying to remember 80s movies bit there and move on. But yeah, I like it.
Police Academy. Revenge of the Nerds. Terminator.
Fine.
Indiana Jones. Dark Crystal.
They're all in there. Easter eggs galore.
Millennium Falcon from Empire Strikes Back, because that was 1980. The second Death Star.
Another unlockable vehicle.
It goes very slow, though.
Yeah, it does. All right. 3 to 1 words. Transitional dilutes tithe.
Ooh. Okay.
So, I mean, this is an interesting set of words, but, to tithe is, I mean, it's sort of, it's generally giving money to the church.
Ew.
Some sort of church. I don't think we go with a known church.
Okay, it's the Church of Chocolate, then.
Okay.
So obviously, chocolate. Eating chocolate is like a religious experience. Like it's a mind-blowing experience. So in this world, someone has created the Church of Chocolate.
Okay.
At the altar, there's just like this massive like chocolate fountain. I mean, I could go on with all the things that are in this church to do with chocolate.
Well, is the tithing then, because it's traditionally 10%, is it if you buy, a block of chocolate, you have to give 10% of the squares to the church?
It only comes in 2 ways in this church. It's either in Easter egg form, because their patron saint is the Easter Bunny. And
Okay.
but in this reality, the Easter Bunny actually lays the chocolate because bunnies lay eggs, of course.
Bunnies lay chocolate eggs.
Yeah. They always do. It's just most you don't want to eat.
Is the Easter Bunny? Is this more of a like they worship this what they believe to be a real creature that exists or existed? Yeah.
Yes. And then Cadbury in the 1940s they cartoonized it or characterized it instead of it being a legitimate bunny.
Yeah, just like Coke did with Santa. Yeah.
So that's one form. The other form is melted, and that melted chocolate stuff. That's like the body and blood of the Easter Bunny. You have your chocolate egg.
I don't know that we need to go quite that analogous to
I have
the Catholic Church, but
thought enough about this that I could go on.
I'm fine with that. It's
the Church of Chocolate.
They drink they drink the molten chocolate to sort of bring them close to
heaven,
the bunny, to their god, essentially. And so, is this about? Does someone dilute the chocolate fountain? Is this?
Yes.
What happens? There's some scandal. There's some blasphemy.
Yep.
Do they put white chocolate in there? Ooh. Does white chocolate come from a rival church?
I mean, white chocolate's not even chocolate. It's not. It's got no cacao. Cacao. I don't know
Portlandia?
why, but my mind just went to the Catalina, the fucking Catalina wine mixer from
wine mixer. Well, there's that cacao sketch in Portlandia too, which is where
oh god, yeah,
cacao. I think it was like a code word or something they were using for sex or something. Well, this is why there are different sects of the church, and do they? I feel like they should worship a different creature, and that's where white chocolate comes from, or is it just an albino bunny?
Well, I'm thinking maybe the
Easter bilby.
No, I'm thinking the Easter cow. Because cow has lots of milk and there's just too much milk in this milk chocolate that it's turned it white.
Okay. Is the other chocolate milk chocolate, or is it that it's all dark chocolate?
It got diluted. So it's all dark chocolate normally, and then it got diluted so much that it became white. And that's what actually makes white chocolate in this. Effectively the people who like white chocolate in this world, they're kind of like the what's it called? Homeopathy sort of followers, because it's very, very heavily diluted, and they say that it makes the chocolate
There's barely
stronger.
any actual chocolate in there, but okay. There probably is homeopathic chocolate. Jesus Christ. Okay, and so what's this gameplay like? How does this play out? Do we have an opening scene of like a morning mass at the house of Cocoa Bean? The house of the bunny?
House of Bean.
The house of the Cocoa Bunny?
House of Cocoa is kind of a cool name for the game. Are you playing like not necessarily an assassin, but like someone who infiltrates this other sect?
You're sent to infiltrate the white chocolate heathens.
Yes. Only to find out that it's got nothing to do with them. They actually thought that you were the ones who tipped their sacred cow.
So who is the actual, and like who's organised all this then? Who actually made these things happen? Is it a third?
Yeah,
it's
the Church of Carob.
It's the Carob. Yes, that's what I was about to say. It's super like vegan hippie types, and they've got the Church of Carob. Yeah.
I mean, I just got transported back to my youth when I had a friend who was very dairy intolerant, and they decided to give me like one of their carob
bites or whatever
they had at Easter time, and no, it was not good.
It's like chalky, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I remember having. Yeah.
You can keep your dairy-free chocolate substitute and shove it in your gob, whatever. Okay, transitional.
Well, is this around? Do we delve into the history here? Do we find that these different sects of this church came from a common thing? Like, that actually there is no bunny or cow, there is only one being. Maybe they find it. Maybe they find the actual source of chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's like the fucking Futurama slurm worm. It's like a horrible, gross thing just spewing out pure, delicious milk chocolate, perfectly mixed. It's the perfect mix between their two things. Because I feel like
carrot's just a secretion that just gets wiped off the side.
Yes. Yeah, that is still definitely lesser.
It's got like 3 spouts.
It's just covered in these weird little workers covering this giant chocolate worm, just feeding it and taking its output. It's
like the chocolate factory, and it's
come with me and you'll see a disgusting worm that's excreting milk chocolate.
A world of pure body horror, and you'll never have chocolate again. 'Cause
You're
this is welcome.
Okay, should we do another one of these?
Yes.
Thingies?
Vortex. Declaimed costume.
Ooh. Declaimed is weird.
Yes.
But
I love a
baggage. That's more unclaimed, but unclaimed baggage.
But I love costumed and vortex because I'm just seeing like this.
Is this some cosplayer who gets?
Well, I'm actually seeing
into a different time.
I'm seeing a literal like. When I think vortex, I think of like a twister sort of thing.
Okay. Is it a Wizard of Oz sort of situation then?
Okay, cosplayer gets sucked into the land of Oz. And they all think that they're like the new wizard because they're like...
Yeah, because they're dressed up as Gandalf.
It's actually the story of the Wizard of Oz. Like, what happened when he turned up.
It's the prequel of when the wizard got there. But the modernized version where he was going to fucking Comic-Con.
Yep. Okay, so what happens in Oz? Now, obviously, we've talked about Oz before. Probably the last time that we talked about Oz was maybe in the first 40-odd episodes.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably been a while.
So there are a lot of other Oz books other than just the Wizard of Oz. So
I don't know them particularly well. I remember some of the stuff from the Return to Oz movie adaptation. The Wheelers and
Mombi and
like Jack Pumpkinhead or something.
Yep, Jack Pumpkinhead.
Was that actually his name?
Yes.
Oh, I literally was just... I knew you had a pumpkin for a head, so...
And TikTok, the big mechanical clock guy.
The clock, yeah, okay. But I think it's open enough. We can just make up our own shit. Anyway, if we want.
Yeah. So, traditionally in The Wizard of Oz, there are 4 different countries. There's like one to the north, one to the east, one to the west, one to the south. And there's good witches to the north and south and evil witches to the east and west.
That's fine. We can stick with that.
I kind of like the idea of an exciting adventure happening within Oz and having to try and unite the countries.
Unite the cunts? Yeah. Okay. I mean, were they united when Dorothy got there? Really?
No. So I don't think...
So has there been a civil war since then? Or do we not try to canonize it against...
No, you don't have to canonize it against the Wizard of Oz.
Story.
This can just be... They see you as maybe the reincarnation of the wizard or something like that because you look older because you're wearing a big fake beard.
Okay, I like that. But then we can play with that as Oz's history and refer to Dorothy and stuff as, the one who defeated the Witch of the West.
The evil Witch of the West. Or the Wicked Witch of the West. East.
She crushed her.
Yeah.
She killed both the Wicked Witches.
So what's happened since is...
Well, there's been a power vacuum there that's been filled, presumably.
Yeah, filled by wickeder witches, like, I'm thinking that they're even worse than what they had before, and they're even more enslaved.
Well, I think one of them had, like, an apprentice who has then stepped up and just, like, become a total tyrant.
Yes. And the other one now, is not allergic to houses. So they, you can drop a house on them all you want, but they're never going to get crushed.
I feel like maybe the other
one's still allergic to water. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. But the one to the east is no longer allergic to houses. Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe the east decided that, due to the house allergy that they have in that side of the country or the world, they actually created a panel of leaders, like so that if the house fell, they could either all lift it together.
A league of evil,
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, like a league. Yeah.
Yes. I really like that because they're a secretive bunch, and you only ever see the leader, and the leader always, is masked and
and dark cloaked and
dark witch's hat and somewhat green skin, but you can't be sure. Are they the same stripy socks she had on before? Is it a she? You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
And then it turns out that Glinda really wasn't nice, so she's sort of a tyrant in the north or whatever.
She's a tyrant, but of niceness. Like, she rules with an iron fist,
made
forcing
of
everyone to be pleasant.
An iron fist of puppies.
A furry fist. Like, you must be pleasant if you're in the north, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise, like, her and her subordinates come down on you hard. If you don't smile at someone, like, there's all these rules for how you must be polite in society and nice to everyone. But it just means everyone's afraid of slipping up every second. And so there's a real underground movement there of people just calling each other pricks.
I got it wrong. Glinda is the good witch of the south, not the north.
No. Who was in the north then?
Who the fuck was in the north?
Wanda. And it's actually the Scarlet Witch from the MCU.
Sometimes named Locusta or Tattypoo.
Sure, Tattypoo.
Tattypoo.
Tattypoo it is. Is she actually nice? Is there actually one?
Yeah,
nice?
It's supposed to be the good witch of the north, and she's like the only nice one. But Glinda, because everyone thought that she was from the north, she kind of took over the north and south.
I think she's definitely been pushing the boundaries and encroaching.
So everything below the border is now south because it's south of the border, and there's like this one little town that the good witch of the north has. Yeah,
pretty much.
Because pretty much wherever Glinda is, she goes, anything anything around me is mine because it's south, and everything's south of somewhere. And she's just ruling it with a furry fist of puppies. Yep.
Yeah. So essentially, you've dropped in as this Gandalf cosplayer
Yes.
from Earth in the middle of what must be close to civil war. Like, the tensions are high between these four factions.
Yes. And there's spies everywhere. There really are. So do you remember the game Mercenaries?
Yes.
Where you had like all the cards.
mercenary. No, cards.
Was
this the like
that was Mercenaries, wasn't it?
Mercenaries? What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the like top, the isometric. What? That was something else, maybe.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the one that you're talking about. I'm pretty sure it was Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what game am I thinking of? It's called something.
Yeah, you could select the different people. You had like the demolitions guy, and you had to like get into places.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember what that one's called.
I do remember it. And yeah, you had the cards of all the people, like the different lieutenants and things.
So I like the idea that you're looking around this world of Oz trying to find all the lieutenants, and as you go through the different missions, you sort of narrow down that, okay, here's a lieutenant of Glinda, and the more that you go through, the more that you realise, who's really behind it.
I like this as an open world kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this whole area you can, in a very, I guess, Ubisoft kind of way, you can go around to wherever you want, although there are obviously areas that are particularly dangerous as you start off.
Poppy fields. Yeah, they're really fucked.
Yeah.
You fall asleep in there.
You can't go through the poppy fields until you get some sort of
breathing apparatus and
PPE.
Yeah, and N95 mask ain't going to cut it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's like set in 2022, so Gandalf actually has a mask, you can put on, and, all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I kind of like the idea of exploring this world of Oz.
So I think
where it's kind of twisted.
What are you doing with, like, when you find these people? Are you taking them out? Is this violent in that way? Is there combat, or is this more of a capture?
I think you're trying to turn them. You're trying to turn them against the leader to become, like, effectively.
Well, I almost think, are you starting your own?
Turn little sections.
Because everyone seemed to respect the wizard. I guess maybe not the East and West.
No, but pretty much since Dorothy left many years ago, Scarecrow, he's been in the Emerald City and he's been king and all this sort of stuff, but he let it get to his head. He's kind of corrupt now, and
he's literally stuffed it full of more straw, so it is physically larger.
I'm literally imagining that when you get to the final level of the game, which is inside the Emerald City, like the Scarecrow is like this big towering, like grotesque straw-filled big boss, sort of the size of the Marshmallow Man and in Ghostbusters.
Well, the size of the actual wizard's head.
That's his
from
head
Wizard
size,
of Oz. Yeah. Like, the giant head. It's now his actual head size. There is no man. There's no man behind this curtain.
As he just steps out.
So, well, before you get there, though, because
I have
like
a brain. Pulls off and it's like
pulls off his head,
and it's glowing. It's like, oh, that's the spot that I've got to attack.
That's the weak spot.
And then it's a big Shadow of the Colossus fight of climbing up the Scarecrow and like shall not pass, and straight.
I think we're rushing ahead. I think we're rushing ahead though, because I think you definitely come across the Tin Man, who has been organising a revolution.
Yes.
The Tin Man and Scarecrow had a falling out after Scarecrow started, letting it all go to his head.
Unfortunately, the Cowardly Lion was killed, but now you've got you've got his son,
the Cowardly Cub.
Well, I'm thinking that, because it was, 1939 to now, the
Grand Cub.
Grand Cub, yeah, that's a bit better. Not so cowardly.
But he's brave.
Yes.
The brave Grand Cub of the original Cowardly Lion.
Yeah.
You do have to be careful. You do have to be careful because the Scarecrow does have a gun.
Yes. And that's canon.
And it actually is a cannon.
It is
because
now.
He's so big now. He actually has to use a cannon.
For those who don't know what we're talking about, there's a scene in the original Wizard of Oz.
Did we talk about this?
I'm not sure if we talked about it on the show. We talked about it recently, definitely. But yes, there is a part in the Wizard of Oz in which the Scarecrow does have a gun.
Yes, it's very weird for what is a kid's film, and it's the only time it shows up. But yeah,
go check it out.
But
it's fun.
But I think before you get to this point, you've met with the Tin Man. You're organising a revolution. So I think you, across the course of this game, pick up people to join your cause.
I mean, when you get the winged monkeys, you've got a great team of spies that can sort of fly in and then come back and.
Well, and I like that from that point of view of as you take over areas, it's not that you're taking them over; it's that you have installed a base of spies there.
Or you can
in
maybe
some way, so you
can maybe
have influence.
Give them hope. Like you're instilling hope in all these people because you're coming to their town. You're showing that the wizard is back.
Yeah.
And they're coming together, and you've got those crazy motorcycle dudes, the ones with the wheels on the hands,
the wheelers, I think,
yeah, and they're kind of like, I think they're kind of the bad guys in this, and I think you got to.
I was going to say they're your vehicles.
I mean, could be. I do like the idea of coming across the Gnome King, and just.
Oh, I don't remember the Gnome King.
He was the antagonist of
Return to
Oz.
Okay.
And for some reason allergic to eggs, and that's how they beat him.
There's something in Oz where just everyone has a weird
allergy,
everyday weakness.
Yeah.
To mundane objects.
So Scarecrow's is fire.
Yeah. Funny that.
Everyone has an allergy. So
yeah, everyone in this world has a weird allergy. And I mean, I guess in the real world, people have like peanuts and egg allergies, but
they're not deadly allergies, though. I mean,
for some people they are, but they don't make them melt into a puddle or whatever. But yes, in this case, it's just contact with grapes.
Yeah,
will completely destroy this specific winged monkey.
Yeah.
They all have different things. And we just procedurally generate that. We just pull it from most of the time it doesn't come into play.
Obviously, you got the Tin Man and all that sort of stuff, and his allergy is rust. Like, you get...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
You get rust on him. Unfortunately, the Cowardly Lion's allergy was an axe.
Yeah, axes.
Yeah.
And it's hereditary, so the brave little Grand Cub has the same.
In fact,
sad allergy to axe blades.
A lot of Munchkins also have the same allergy.
Flesh-based creatures, yeah. And strangely enough, they come in contact with it very often at high speeds. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah, so anyway, after you get your first weapon, which I think is an axe, and you're going through Munchkin Land.
I kind of like the idea, actually, particularly with this whole bringing hope and what the wizard was in the original, is that you have to create wizard effects without actually having magic.
Well, blood fountains are a pretty good effect, but they only last for a small amount of time. And
blood fountain makes it difficult. I'm thinking more smoke. Perhaps some lightning, arcs of lightning. Yep. Put together some Tesla coils or something.
Thunderbolts,
Jacob's ladders,
and lightning. Very,
very, very frightening.
Very frightening. Yeah. It might have scared some of the. I think they were called Winkies in the in the West, and that's just a weird name. The weird thing is when you do go into the West, you actually hear the song, I'm pretty sure it's Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica, that actually use the oh.
Oh, right. Well, I was going to say, the way you give hope, it almost effectively just comes down to a big pyrotechnics show. So maybe you are just going across the world putting on, like, rock concerts.
Yeah. I kind of think that Oz would have to be a pretty big area, so it's got to be sort of Skyrim-sized.
Sure.
So that you get, those very different climates throughout the game.
Yeah, it's a big world.
Where do you land first?
I mean, it's got to be somewhat... Well, I was going to say it's got to be somewhat central, but that doesn't necessarily make sense.
I kind of like the idea of you land in Munchkin Land, because then you can follow the yellow brick road, and it's kind of...
It's a familiar thing.
It's a familiar thing, and everyone kind of knows that. And they go, oh, yeah, so you follow the yellow brick road. You get to the centre, and that's when you find out that, I
like that when you eventually, you fairly soon get a map, and it's got the yellow brick road on it. But the yellow brick road goes over this whole country, and it's actually got, multiple forks, different things. People just say follow the yellow brick road. It could go anywhere. You could end up anywhere.
Yeah.
It was pure chance that Dorothy actually ended up in the Emerald City.
Yeah, and it's because, they only have one word for the colour yellow, but there are lots of different shades of yellow depending on which way you go. So you've got to follow FF, FF3312 or whatever.
You have to remember the hex codes. Follow the FF3312 road. Follow.
I'm pretty sure that's not a
I'm sure
yellow.
It's not. That's a lot of
that's
red.
Got a lot of red in there and too much blue. So that's not a yellow.
But that's fun. I just figured maybe in the time since Dorothy.
121200.
Did you look up a yellow?
No,
You're still guessing. I'm thinking maybe just they had a good supply of yellow bricks. Whatever yellow mud or that they make these bricks out of. And so they've just expanded the road over a long period of time. I like it. All right, should we do another 3 words before we move on? Or do you want to go straight on to
No, you can do another one. This is only our third game. Last week we did 20.
Yes, that was a very... we had to get through all those game jam games. Okay. Isolator, decoders, bypasses. I mean, this feels very much like some sort of hacking or some sort of...
Yeah. You've got to isolate the bypass and decode. And
isolate the network to bypass the decoder.
Yeah. All hacking terms that everyone knows and makes sense. So this This is actually kind of cool. I like the feel of this. I want to have...
Ooh. I was just going to say, rather than go down in, we've done a lot of different ones with sort of a hacking interface where you're on a computer or whatever.
Mm-hmm. This one you got a soldering iron.
This is set in the metaverse.
Okay.
So hacking in this situation can have some pretty huge effects.
Metaverse is in what used to be Facebook and is now the metaverse, or is this metaverse in the
metaverse as in
or is this metaverse in the actual sense and not like some branding thing?
No, not in the branding sense. Not in the way... I mean, obviously Facebook has done that on purpose to try to move towards what the idea of a metaverse is. They will not get there. No, I'm talking like Snow Crash style, or I think, William Gibson-esque. There's a secondary world, or a Ready Player One, if you want to go to that sort of situation.
Yeah.
There's a virtual world that people spend a lot of time in. And there are rules within that world that are meaningful, and then obviously there are people who can hack them and cause chaos. So I like the idea that we can set up that world. Often the metaverse sort of idea is built around your avatar and the ability to change yourself to look however you want. And so I think you could have things around being able to hack other people's avatars to, gain access to look like them and different things, because otherwise there may even be rules in place that you have to be unique to a certain degree so that you can't impersonate people.
That sounds deathly close to NFTs.
I was considering whether we go there or not. I don't want to give them the credence of actually being in a real metaverse where they mean anything.
I literally don't get how they would ever work.
Let's not get into it, but they're bullshit. They're just a scam. It's fucking stupid.
Every time I hear about these things, it's like, all you got to do is change one little byte, and it's like, oh look, it's a different thing, even though it looks exactly the same.
It's not about the image. It's not about the image. It's purely just speculative investing. It's dumb.
And it's like, hang on. So if I sold you a hat for my game, and then I wanted to sell that same hat to someone else, I couldn't, because it's exactly the same thing. So I've got to make every single one unique. It's like, fuck off.
The thing is, you actually could, because what is at the other end of that URL means fuck all. As long as the token itself is a new token, yes, you could sell the same hat 500 times. The whole unique thing about it is just to make the people buying it feel a little bit better and feel special. Because all you own is the fucking token. Like, yeah, that's it. You own an address, like a item in a ledger. It's dumb. I cannot in our world, it's just that the metaverse does have laws. Essentially, there are rules in place around. You have to set your avatar. You have to register it, perhaps in some way, with a central authority. Mm-hmm. Because they had problems, like when we can go into the problems in the past that they had, where a particular meme would come through and everyone would make themselves look like, the fat cat eating peanut butter that's popular at the moment, and nobody could tell who anyone was, and then people were doing nefarious things pretending to be others, and they had to institute these rules around, no, you can change yourself up as much as you like, but you have to be, X% different to everybody, to everybody else, to be unique to a certain degree.
So where does the main part of the game happen then? And is it the post office, and why? What are you trying to hack at the post office?
Look, I think it. We can decide whether we keep it all in the metaverse. It also depends on, is this a situation? So there are. In sort of fictional stuff, there's a couple of ways that a metaverse like this can work. It can really be a virtual reality or an augmented reality.
I do like augmented reality, because there's something about, seeing the normal life, and then you put some glasses on and I've got a funny hat on. It's like...
Yeah. That's the biggest change. That's the first thing anybody did in the metaverse, was just put funny hats on people. Valve started it. Valve was actually the first one to really jump on board.
Yep. But they got onto this whole thing about putting like a red valve on the back of your head, and half the time it'd be covered up by your hair so you couldn't see it. So, it kind
of became purposeless. I think in that, so a bit more of an Altered Carbon way. I don't know if you ever watched that, but
nope.
In that it was more embedded, like it was embedded technology. It wasn't glasses that you put on.
Okay. So you snap your fingers and...
Yeah, we can decide whether you have the option of turning it off in the regular world, or if that's actually part of the hacking, is that, you have the ability to turn off the metaverse and see the reality of what's around you.
But you can only switch it off 8 times.
Why?
I don't know. I'm trying to come up with some sort of limitations to...
No, I think it's more around. I think
it's like I only switched it off 8 times in my life. One was to see the birth of my daughter. One was to see her get married.
You could have a character that does. That's an interesting character trait, or something where maybe the first people who were able to turn it off, like it did damage to them or something, and so it was
luck whether they could turn it back on. It was lucky if they could turn it back on because it was.
Because what I was going to say that actually ties into it a bit is that when you turn it off, you realize that there's this whole underclass of people who don't have the metaverse technology,
and they don't appear in the.
And the metaverse actively hides them from people, yes, in the metaverse. And so these people just see people walking through the streets who literally cannot see them, and you see them for the first time when you turn this off.
But also the problem is you've only got a digital wallet, and you can't see that anymore. So you don't know, you can't pay for anything.
I like the idea of having to start relying on more archaic technology for this world.
Credit cards.
Things with screens, right? Anything with a screen, really, because everyone else has it embedded as a child. That's all they know, is this ability to, it's hooked into your brainwaves. You can essentially use your thoughts to manipulate the interfaces and select things.
Open that door. When you're walking towards a door, is like you're thinking, is the door going to open? And the door opens. If it's not turned on, you keep walking and you bash into the door.
Well, I think that
you have to manually open the door.
I think by this point the metaverse is so.
There are no doors.
Well, it's more that it's so smart, it's so aware that if there's a door that's not hooked up to the metaverse, again, you don't even see it. There's almost this whole real-world layer to the world that you're not aware of. You're only aware of the real-world bits that are actually metaverse active.
When you go to the toilet, you realise all the doors were digital.
Yeah.
And those people could see you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think absolutely. All anything like that, it's all digital. You go to the or it's
you go to the toilet
digital,
and it's just stalls. No, it's not even stalls. It's just toilets, and they decided not to build the digital stalls.
Well, and again, it's almost like because of how much control the metaverse has over what you can see. If there's someone else going to the toilet next to you, the metaverse just paints them out. Like anytime anyone wants privacy, they can just tell all other metaverse users, it just broadcasts it and will paint them out of existence and guide people around them, But there's this people who are in poverty or who are essentially in this separate class of people who have to put up with these fucking metaversians walking around blindly all the time. And I think it's even to the point of like when people get fed up and like if someone who doesn't have the metaverse comes up and like shoves someone who is in the metaverse, the AI that they're all connected to, it just like creates something there innocuous that shoved them so that they won't see that they're just completely immersed in this world.
I'm just seeing I'm just imagining like these college kids playing ultimate frisbee with a digital frisbee, and they're just making diving catches and all this sort of stuff, and it's like they're literally just diving and like, I got it, and they've got nothing in their hand. All this sort of stuff.
So all right. So I did talk about them being about the people who are in the real world being under the poverty line. It's almost funnier, though, if there's just actually a whole regular society
that just tolerate the people in the metaverse.
That have to just tolerate the metaverse people because it's just the company's too powerful. But they're just trying to go about their day. And they have their own, like, it's almost like a fairly contemporary technology, maybe slightly advanced.
Yeah, there's still a
modern
corner
day.
shop. There's still a corner shop, and you can go into, and you can sort of buy stuff. And then when you go in there, there's just some dude in the corner, like, handing out fake things to people and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the metaverse. That's the metaverse like clerk. That's who you go to if you. It's just a guy.
Well, I think it's funnier if it's like, oh yeah, that's a drug dealer. He deals drugs in the metaverse. He thinks he's in an alley. We just have to ignore him.
It's just Steven. Just leave him. He's harmless. He's just selling digital drugs.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you want the real stuff, go around the back alley and talk to Frank.
Because I'm imagining in this place, a computer virus could actually make you feel like elated and all this sort of stuff, because it could adjust your brain chemistry and all this sort of stuff.
It.
Like,
I think, and we could go into the history of it, but I think essentially, like, people started, once this technology came about, people started immersing themselves in it to the point that they didn't want to come out of it. And then as a couple of generations went by where people were getting it earlier and earlier, that it was just this class of people, generally the rich, who started living in it, 100% of the time, basically. So and gave it,
Okay, you're in this game, your character,
I think you start...
He started in the metaverse.
Yes.
Something goes wrong and... like, it breaks, basically.
Either something goes wrong or you come across someone who is... It's almost a reverse Matrix. Well, no, it's not. It's
actually
almost
the
an
Matrix.
actual Matrix.
But that's what I'm saying.
A different layer of it.
Something breaks down and the metaverse people come in and say, look, we can fix it, but unfortunately you're going to have to be without the implant for a while.
Well, except I kind of... I mean, again, I feel like by this stage, the people in the metaverse are almost not even aware that it's a technology that they're partaking in. And so I feel like it is, like, you're right, it is essentially the Matrix at that point, except it's a self-imposed Matrix and everyone in the real world is just aware, like, it's overlaid on top of the real world.
Yeah.
And so it's more, you come across someone who's like, hey, you want to see something real fucked up? And they hack your implant and turn it off. They
turn it off and then they disappear. And so the rest of your time is either you're trying to make your way through the world and trying to get back to this hacker to try and work out, and maybe what you learn along the way is that, hey, things aren't so bad without this technology.
Yeah, well, and just that the people, they're essentially the 1% in a way, but, they're fucking up the world for their own benefit. They're making things difficult for everybody. Maybe there is some, like, do you guys know the energy requirements for keeping the metaverse running for these fucking assholes?
I kind of almost like
constantly.
I kind of like that. Your best friend that you had growing up. You haven't seen him for years. When in reality, you actually lived next to him, and he hasn't been part of the metaverse for the last 10 years or something like that, because there was a malfunction and he could never get it fixed.
Yeah, and so they couldn't afford to or something. Like, they were right on the border of the ability to afford this technology.
And so then you can always have that thing of you meet your best friend in the start of the game and you sort of see some moments kind of like a far what was it? The
Fallout?
Fallout 3?
3. 3 did that. I think 4... No, 4 was a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 3 you played through, you're a baby and then you're a kid and then...
Because I like the idea of you see that and then they disappear, and it's sort of like the kid's upset because their best friend has disappeared and all this sort of stuff, and then just to find out many years later that
they were still there the whole time. They could see
just,
you every day. They saw you every day,
and maybe they had something to do with hiring the hacker to try and get you into the real world because, they saw how you were wasting away sort of thing.
Yeah. I like that. That's a really cool... because you could do some really cool effects of, particularly the first time you turn the metaverse off and it just sort of falling away in front of you as it turns into reality.
I kind of like a Matrix fall, like pixels or voxels of it just sort of start falling away. Just
stripping off, yeah, for sure. And again, I think in a lot of
I don't think it goes to
ways,
dark and dingy. I think it just goes to...
No. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think in a lot of ways it's just the same. There's only certain things that the metaverse is actually overlaying. But you can make some subtle things. Like, there's...
less bloom.
There's some... yeah, there's less bloom. There's, some dirt in a corner, or there's, some garbage, or, the metaverse has been just making everything pristine for you.
There's more than 3 reflections?
But, yeah, every time I've stood in front of a mirror... No, I mean, something like that, the metaverse would let through because, it uses reality where it can. Although, actually, that is cool. I like the idea of you do get glitchiness if the metaverse is trying to hide anything from you. If you're between 2 mirrors...
Oh, my God.
It can only go so deep.
It goes so deep, and then 3 layers deep, you see someone standing behind you. Oh.
Yeah. That's cool. That'd be it. I don't want to even think about how you have to pull that effect off.
You're in a dressing room, and, you've put on something, and you look in the mirror, and there's a mirror behind, and it's, so small, but you see a face just in one of the lower levels, and it's of someone standing behind you, and it's that's so disgusting and so wrong.
Love that. That's a cool world building thing. I think you'd have to build it as some sort of kind of sprawling RPG-ish kind of something.
Effectively once you're out in the real world, you're effectively chasing down leads, trying to work out, who this hacker guy was, and then you find out, based on, I don't know, there was a card left at the scene or something like that, or a card that you find in your pocket.
I was almost thinking, I wonder if you find out that, because by this point, obviously, the metaverse itself is a pretty advanced AI.
Yes.
Even though most of it is at the sort of functional level of just almost reacting to the world around you, but there is an intelligence to it now.
Mm.
And that maybe the hacker is actually another separate intelligence that has been built or injected or split off or whatever.
He only exists in the meta world.
Yeah.
Oh,
so they only exist in the meta world.
You go kind of round in loops and all this sort of stuff, and you can never quite find him. He always seems to be slipping away just as you get there. And
I think you definitely have to get back into the metaverse at various points, yeah. Whether it becomes something you just turn on and off, or whether...
You can only plug in for a small amount of time, or when you enter a certain area, it's it activates just for that little area, so you can sort of see that little part, and then you walk out and it all sort of fades away again, just so that we can reuse
the idea of
that melting texture.
It'd be ridiculous. It'd be crazy, I think, to have a huge game about this metaverse thing and you only spend the first 5 minutes in it. I think you need to have it on and spend more time in it at different points.
There's something about seeing all these people reacting to things that aren't there that they could be so fucking funny.
What do people do you think they've got bright blue eyes or something when they're the people in the metaverse, because there's essentially a layer. There's essentially a layer over their eyes that's intercepting what they see,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having something.
An unnatural blue or an unnatural purple or something like that. You just got
from a purple's not bad. I was going to say from a physics level, it's it needs to take in it needs to absorb 100% of the light, so they're just black. But that's probably a bit too on the nose. I like a purple. That's kind of...
Or gold. Gold could be...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that, and then that's just the fact that they're like the rich pricks and they have golden eyes is pretty good. Oh, I like that world, though. That, give me that instead of the cyberpunk that we got. Give me something like that. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Let's switch it up for the last one.
Yeah. We've got time for one more. What are you thinking?
3, 2, 1 movie.
All right, shall we both choose, get one and we'll just choose the best?
Yep.
Or a combination? Ooh. Pistol whipped.
Into the Grizzly Maze.
Okay. I haven't heard of either of these. Mine's a Steven Seagal vehicle from 2008.
Ew.
Like he's an elite ex-cop with a gambling problem and a mountain of debt.
I mean, this one here, I don't like the look of the actual story, because it's like these people are going on a hike and they get stalked by a grizzly bear. I kind of like the idea that there's a fucking maze and
there's an actual maze.
It's fucking grizzly in there, like.
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, less grizzly bear and more just grizzly the adjective.
Grizzly the adjective, yeah.
Okay.
It's really fucked up when they drop the bear in there, like, at one stage.
So is
and
this,
it's like,
you're now being stalked. Kind of the most dangerous, like the, what is that, hunting humans kind of deal, the most dangerous game or whatever, or a Hunger Games-ish sort of thing, like, are these people being captured and or a Squid Game almost, are they being dropped into this maze and have to survive and fight their way out, or are they...
Oh, yeah, I kind of like that idea, but not from a typical standpoint of there's people that have put you in here. It's an unknown... You wake up and you're just in there.
Is it more of a Lost thing then, almost, where do you wake up in a group?
Yes.
And you're at the beginning, you're having to work together, and it's just this maze. That's cool, actually. I like that. I'd watch a TV show about that, of them just trying to figure out this mysterious maze that they find themselves dropped in.
I mean, if it was going to be a big maze, I'd probably call it a labyrinth, because that...
Yes. I was going to bring up the idea of labyrinth, but I don't think we connect it to Jim Henson's
it's got nothing to do with Jim
amazing
Henson's
movie
Labyrinth, because we don't want it to
maybe
be...
we put in a few little worms as Easter eggs.
Yeah, but you got to look really, really closely.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which way you go, and they never lead to the castle.
They never lead to the castle.
Well, they do lead to the castle, but you don't want to go to the castle. You want to get out of this maze, because you started at the castle.
Right. Just lead you back to the beginning. Yeah, I kind of like that. You start in a big-ish area that does have some sort of structure in it, and you climb to the top, and it's just fucking maze as far as the eye can see in all directions.
All directions.
Basically, it feels like this physically impossible space, but you're here.
So I think when you camp down for the first night, that's when you hear like the most terrifying like noise that you can actually hear, and it's effectively the sort of noise from the smoke monster in Lost or whatever. And it's sort of like
some sort of ominous otherworldly kind of sound. Yeah.
I think this group that you're in, sort of like an RPG sort of party, you've got maybe...
That's interesting.
Because I like the idea that each one has different skills.
Yeah, I like this from a...
I like this from a single player... I like this from a single player point of view.
Definitely a single player point of view. But I do like that RPG-ish thing where there's almost a daily loop of choose a few people to go out exploring, and every day you reveal more of this maze.
Yeah.
But you could come across any number of traps, creatures, different things,
puzzles that you gotta solve, and then it's like, okay,
as well as like goodies, loot, food. Like this is a game, and they, it's not entirely against you, but it would just really give you this feeling of being on edge the whole time.
So, I think this maze is a sculpted maze, so it's not random. Okay. However, your starting location is random within the maze.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, effectively, you'd want to...
by sculpted you mean it was created by artists.
Created by artists.
It's not procedurally generated.
Not procedurally generated. It's not random. Everything's there because it was placed there.
Yeah.
And effectively you've got, 4 or 5 different starting positions so that you can replay the game and come across a few different puzzles.
Yeah.
And come across maybe some different story elements that you didn't necessarily come across last time.
Yeah, well, I like the main story bits almost being the companion stories in that way, where you learn about these different people, and you'll learn more about depending on who you choose to bring with you, you'll go deeper down their puzzle, like their paths and their stories, and then there are maybe gameplay elements that, in that classic kind of BioWare-ish way of, if you want to sort of finish this person's story path, you need to do a particular thing in the maze, or you need to find something. You need to do this
particular thing and not let them get killed, because the other thing that can actually happen is you can kill off people and make it impossible to get out of this maze. Or not necessarily impossible. I think there's always a way that you can go.
Maybe it locks branches off of the maze, and so again, if we're able to develop this level in a smart enough way, it's like, if they're choosing this person or someone who's got these specific types of skills, then they're going to be able to go down this area more easily. But if they're all dead, well, they're going to have to go a different way.
Yeah,
but there's still a way out. And I mean, you could do that smart. You could almost have a kind of Left 4 Dead director-esque sort of thing of chopping and changing the maze for areas they haven't visited.
Well, yeah, so what you could do is, yes, the maze is man-made, but there are certain points that can be a type of puzzle. So this corner here can be an electronic puzzle, and that would be that there's a gate here and there's a electronic panel off to the side, or it's a so essentially it still has a level of procedural generation to it, but it's more around how you need to get through it to get to the sort of story beats, rather than the actual physical layout of the maze itself. Yeah, that's cool. And I like just really layering on that Lost style. We're in a completely unknown place. How did we get here? Starting to figure out maybe one of the people who you're with is actually a mole in that way. Like they're actually working for whoever put you there. And so if you go enough down their story path, you find out about that. You go down 3 puzzles down this branch, and you get to a lookout tower. And when you go to the top, there's like a weird symbol on the wall, and it's like, if you remember back to when you first woke up, that symbol was actually on the screen.
It's a very Dharma Initiative moment. Yeah, definitely. I like that. That's cool.
I mean, I always loved mazes anyway. I think mazes are really, really powerful.
And just because
tools.
they are kind of by, like, especially a maze that is specifically constructed, right? The only reason you build a maze is to have people get lost in it.
Yeah.
And so to have this huge, sprawling structure of a maze that you've been dropped into unknowingly, there's so much mystery to that,
No, but talking about Lost has brought up the biggest disappointment of my life, which was Lost Via Domus, that fucking game by Ubisoft that promised so much and was just a heaping pile of shit.
I didn't even remember they made a Lost game. That's hilarious.
I mean, one of the things I love about Lost was the fact that it was so mysterious, and I didn't really care about the people's story. I wanted to explore the island. That's what I was there for, to explore and
then what was
find
the
the
game?
secrets.
Was it one of those like CSI style where it was
you actually
CSI games they made where it was almost a hidden object?
Yeah, well, I didn't mind those games. They had interesting things.
Yeah, I mean, for the subject matter, it made somewhat sense. But I feel like it was it not something like that? I don't know. Was it?
So it had a new character that was created specifically for the game, and it played out in like 7 episodes, and effectively it was just fetch quests of this person asks you to go find this, and you go do that, and you find out a little bit more about your character's backstory, and you do the flashbacks and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, Lost, the TV series, used the flashbacks so they didn't have to show so much of the island. You've got a game on the island, show me the fucking island. Just let me explore the fucking island. Hey, give it an open world, and I want to find the hatch. I want to find, other places. I want to go up to the radio tower. I want to, maybe talk to the others. I don't care about my backstory of my character because that's not...
Because it's a character it was invented just for the game anyway.
Yeah.
And look, that could be done well, having a new character, because that somewhat makes sense for... Like, if they tied it in well enough to Lost...
Yeah.
Having someone else dropped on the island or in a different part of the island who'd been the whole time or something, but...
This character was there the whole time.
No, see, that's shit. Yeah. Okay. That's annoying.
Sorry, this has been my review of Lost Via Domus. Biggest disappointment of 2007, I want to say.
I did have the wiki open for it.
Was it 2009?
2008.
2008.
So you're on either side of it.
Fuck. That is all we have time for tonight.
Yeah, that's it. That is the end. So if you would like to find us online and listen to our other episodes, go to podchaser.com/bitstorm. Check them out. There's a whole bunch there. And hey, if you want to check out the Game Jam game we made recently,
it's called Second Chance Toys, and we'll
put a link in the show notes.
Sure, Ben will. Yep.
It's a game about toys.
And giving them a second chance.
So,
because everything deserves a second chance.
Do.
Do you like the sound? Do you like the sound? Do you like the sound of the game? Because I did all the sound effects. Do you like the music that we play at the start and end of each episode? I hope you do, because we really like it. The song is called Mount Defiance. It's off of the album Containment Failure by the band Kuradust. It's available for free on kuradust.bandcamp.com.
That's right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott. Into the Chocoverse.